With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Joining me now is Leo Holman. Leo, you got a great article out. Execs from Palantir, Meta, OpenAI being brought into U.S. Army as colonels. The turbocharged military's use of drone warfare, robot soldiers, and other high-tech killing machines. This is pretty interesting, is it not? It is exactly what we talked about in the Worldview report that Leo's the executive producer of, so we put that in there tonight from his report. It is corporate fascism. It's communitarianism, as I've been talking about and writing for years. Big word, I know. Big government, big business merging together. This is the epitome of the deep state. Leo?
Oh, definitely, Brandon. This is blurring the lines between government and big business. They're all part of the same club, as you know. One hand greases the other. And these, but they're all conservative now, these tech bros, right? So nothing to really worry about because, Mark Zuckerberg, who's a lifelong Democrat, is as soon as Trump won the election, he started talking like a Republican. Well, now we know why.
And bought a house in Washington, D.C., apparently.
Yes. And now we know why. I mean, his company, Meta, which is the one that owns Facebook, recently got a huge contract to supply some sort of virtual reality technology to the U.S. Army that they are able to train with in some sort of enhanced environment. Like if you want to train in desert warfare, it'll, give you a virtual reality desert battlefield to, show your wares in. If you want an urban warfare environment, they can create that. It's very interesting how it all works. But President Trump in his new budget just called, this news is just breaking today, he wants a 13% increase in the defense budget, which would bring it up to over $1 trillion, Brandon. I believe for the first time we've ever had $1 trillion. We've been close, but I don't believe we've ever had $1 trillion defense budget. That's what they're calling for. And it's going to make companies like Palantir, Meta, and OpenAI much bigger, much wealthier, and much more powerful than they are already.
And of course, we're going to end up with things like this. We talked about this on Worldview Report tonight. Look at this. This is a Chinese-made drone. Look how small that thing is. It's about the size of her fingernail. With a camera and with microphones. Imagine this thing flying into your house or your corporation and sitting up on a ledge somewhere and then just collecting all of your conversations and everything else, right? I mean, not to mention, how long before these things end up on the market and are flying into people's private bedrooms?
That's a great question, Brandon. I mean, I think they're crossing the line with the technology today. I really do. That's called a mosquito drone because it's about the size of a mosquito, a mature mosquito, and it can literally get through a crack in your window. I mean, and it's inside your domain or your barracks if you're an enemy combatant. And then it will feed information back through artificial intelligence to your enemy, whether that be someone who wants to spy on you or someone wants to kill you. And they will know where you are, who you're talking with, what you're saying, and they can use that intelligence for future operations, whether that be, just to keep tabs and track you and what you're saying and who you're telling it to, or in a military application, it could be giving them information on your location in order to kill you.
I think we played a video. I don't know if I can find it while you're talking, but I think we played a video from some DARPA presentation that talked about the ability to basically kill a whole room of people with one drop of some kind of bio weapon. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I mean, this is the new modern warfare, and it's getting scary. Let's switch for a moment to Palantir. They have something called their Maven Smart system based on an AI platform, totally unique to them. And they are selling this to governments and militaries. And what it does is it provides information on wanted targets. It was used, for instance, by the Israelis in Gaza, and it tells the IDF which buildings to hit with their munitions. Now, that may sound great, but when you take the human element out of these decisions, Brandon, it really is dangerous. And the Maven Smart system, even according to Palantir, has a 10% error rate, okay? But as I mentioned in my article, apparently it's okay to be 90% proficient when you're killing people for the military. 10%, mistakes, no problem, nothing to see there. Let's just buy some more and let AI make more decisions for how to kill people and where.
I want to get back to that, but I think I found the clip I was referring to. Let me go to another, that lower third on there. Let me see if I can find another one with that lower third. They're all going to have the same lower third. All right. Anyway, I think this is the clip we've played extensive, the longer version on the air, a guy doing a military type presentation. Listen to this, folks.
Drugs across the proliferant barrier, which is the blood-brain barrier and cerebrospinal fluid barrier. So I get these things where they got to go. But I can also utilize nanoparticulate matter in a very indiscriminate way. The idea here is that I can get something called high CNS aggregation material that is essentially invisible to the naked eye and even to most scanners because it is so small that it selectively goes through most levels of filtered porosity. These are then inhaled either through the nasal mucosa or absorbed through the oral mucosa. They have high CNS affinity. They clump in the brain or in the vasculature, and they create essentially what looks like a hemorrhagic diathesis, in other words, a hemorrhage predisposition or a clot predisposition in the brain. What I've done is I've created a stroking agent.
What Agent Smith has done here.
What he did created is a stroking agent. And you heard how small it was. So why could it not be delivered by that little mosquito drone, right? Is that small?
Yeah, I remember that clip. That is I believe a DARPA scientist. I don't remember his name, Brandon. That was well over a year ago. We reported on that, maybe 2 years now.
I think it's been at least
but
2 years.
But he is still, he's a brilliant mind. But
yeah, he is smart, no doubt about it.
Yeah, he's using that brilliant mind to develop new and scarier weapons for the U.S. military.
Or at least tell us about it. I don't know if he's the one developing it or not.
The problem here is, I think, to sort of put it back in perspective, I have no problem with the U.S. military using these weapons against foreign enemy combatants, if indeed we're at war with those with those combatants. My issue is that whenever we see new technology like this rolled out and starting with a military application, it always gets sent and sold to law enforcement as well, and ends up being used against American civilians. And that's where I draw the line, Brandon.
Yeah. So now all of a sudden you got all these tech bros. And by the way, didn't we play a clip, Logan, of one of these tech bros from Palantir talking about how they let's see, Palantir on the elections in Europe?
Oh yeah.
I think I have it here. Let's see.
Where they were able to single out the far right and remove them from the debate. Yeah,
that's right.
Public debate.
And Logan has the clip, I think. Let me know when you have it, Logan. But he was bragging about doing that. And then they were using it. They were working on stuff, I guess, during COVID too. So
yes, that was Alex Karp, the CEO of
Alex
Palantir.
Karp, that's right. He's got it here. Watch this, folks. We got to wait for it to load. See, this is a deal we do here, folks. We're live streaming this, and we're producing on the fly because the conversations go places. That's what sets our program apart from all the others. They're all canned. Everything is detailed down to the second. What's going to be said? Who's going to say it? There's no free flowing of information. No, hey, let's bring in a new clip to show that what we're saying is true. Or he brought something up. Let's go research that live right now and bring up the clip. That's why our show is more interesting. That's why our show is more entertaining, because this is not manufactured news that is scripted. Can you comment on that real quick before we go to the clip? Logan's got it, but can you comment? Because I think that's why our network's growing and this show is spiking in attendance, because it's an authentic program that in many cases is being produced live while we're on the air. I mean, there are a lot of things we talk about, clips we play. We don't even know what we're going to do before we go on the air in some regards, because the show just organically unfolds.
Right. All you told me before I came on today was you wanted to discuss my article. But what happens is we draw on previous knowledge and previous stories, and then we connect dots with items and issues that are directly related to this story I wrote, but go beyond and connect more dots.
Mm-hmm. And you're not going to get this at Fox News and other places where it's so scripted.
Correct. Right. Mm-hmm. This is not scripted. I can vouch for that. I never know what you're going to ask me.
Let's go to that clip. Here we go.
Look, we built PG, which single-handedly stopped the rise of the far right in Europe. We built Foundry, which was used to distribute the COVID vaccine and saved millions of lives globally. We built what we call multi-constellation, and what's often called the digital kill chain. And they're category-defining products. So when you deliver these products to the market, just honestly, people say this isn't going to exist, this isn't valuable, but then it changes the market. And then the market is the Palantir market. Now, that doesn't mean everyone in the world is going to buy our product, but it means most of the sensible people in the world are going to buy from the category we defined.
There you go.
You know, Brandon, you can tell from that little clip there that there is no moral conscience involved in the development or sale of these products. All it's about is expanding their market share and selling it to more governments, whatever they may want to use it for. As long as they pay good money for it, Palantir's fine with that. I would not be surprised, Brandon, as I mentioned at the end of my article, that at some point Palantir is selling these products to governments, and they'll be used to hunt down political dissidents and especially conservative Christians, and throw them in jail. I really think we're heading towards a time like that. It could be a, martial law type situation. It could be a time of war when someone like you or me is telling the truth and the government doesn't want to hear it. I don't know the specifics, but I just have a real feeling, a bad feeling, that this technology is going to be used not just for military applications against foreign adversaries, but against we the people.
And I certainly think, as you and I both agree, have talked about in the air, I don't think this is the mark of the beast, but I think it's laying the foundation for the mark of the beast. And the Bible talks about the fact that
it could definitely be used, Brandon, to enforce the mark of the beast.
Right, that's right, because no one can buy or sell unless you have the mark.
Right.
And the Bible tells us, as we're going through the book of Revelation in my Sunday night church service here on Worldview Tube, 8 p.m. Central Time on Sunday nights, we're on lesson 41 now, and we're in Revelation chapter 17. We'll be off this Sunday night, and the next Sunday night is everybody's taking vacation for 4th of July. But we'll get back underway. But we know from our study of Revelation 13, Revelation 14, some of these chapters there, that people are coming to Christ in huge numbers. In fact, the Bible says so many are becoming believers, you could hardly number them. But we also know they're being slaughtered in huge numbers as well. The question is, these people that don't take the mark, they're being hunted down in some ways. They're being denied food, but some of them are being hunted down. How is it you all of a sudden know who has become a believer? How do you know? Is it something they have said on social media? Is it something they have said to someone else? Or is there so much spying technology that it's impossible to hide that you've converted? And so how is it that they're hunting people down so quickly?
These Palantir software programs, Brandon, that's exactly what they do. They build a dossier on people, citizens, either American citizens or foreign nationals. And how do they do that? Within seconds, they can scan a person's social media posts, years worth of social media posts, maybe even some that you've deleted, right? They can scan your bank records, your banking and your financial records, your tax returns, your maybe some of your health records, your education records, Just about anything in the public domain and much that is not, Palantir can get access to it in seconds.
Have you watched the new documentary? Logan, do you think you could look and see real quick? Again, and I know we're live, so we're free flowing here. But look on YouTube. See if you can find how it is they found bin Laden. They used cell phones, tracking cell phone to find bin Laden. Let me see if that comes up. Have you watched the new documentary on how they found bin Laden?
No.
You haven't? Well, they're in this documentary, if I can find it. I
don't know if I would trust, is it PBS?
No, it was a Netflix documentary.
I don't know if I would trust Netflix.
I don't either, that's for sure. But they're interviewing a bunch of people that had been inside the intelligence arena or being interviewed. Again, you take for its worth. But they say that they were using technology to find bin Laden's carrier, his courier.
Courier. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And they didn't even know who the courier was. Maybe that's what you should put in, Logan. Using technology to find Osama bin Laden's courier. They didn't even know who his courier was. And it took them 2 or 3 years. But they used technology to find him. And then somewhere, I think they found an audio recording of him. And then they were able to use that to pick up his voice until they finally tracked him and knew who the courier was. And then they used the courier by tracking him to find bin Laden. They describe in the documentary, again, take it for what it's worth, but they describe in the documentary, and there's multiple people being interviewed who give their names and what they were doing, and they were on this task force. They just knew they had a courier they had to find. And they're like, how are we going to find one person out of the whole world?
One thing that's very valuable to a company like Palantir is your phone records.
Yes.
And almost everybody has a cell phone today. So this is something, this is a ramification of modern society. As recently as 12, 15 years ago, everybody didn't have a smartphone.
Right.
But everybody is trackable now with these little things here. And it's a treasure trove of information for a company like Palantir.
100%. Did you find anything in there, Logan? He's still looking. Let me play this little trailer. This is from the trailer, Logan. Let me play the trailer. Okay, here we go.
We're at war. We will find those who did it, and we'll bring them to justice.
Cofer Black, chief of counterterrorism, said, if you'll let me do it, I'll have flies walking on their eyeballs in 6 weeks.
That's what I'm talking about.
I was working with a representative from the FAA, trying to track some of the conspirators.
We knew this was Osama bin Laden.
We were going to war full out against bin Laden.
إني أقول للشعب الأمريكي إننا بإذن الله ماضون في قتالكم وسنواصل العمليات الاستشهادية.
You had branches of Al-Qaeda everywhere. Bin Laden basically franchised himself.
They had a stronghold in Tora Bora. That's where the intelligence said that they had retreated to.
This is the time to come in with massive force and end this thing.
Bin Laden got away. Every one of them that escaped the country was a potential pilot to fly another airline into a building.
It became obsessive, and yet we were constantly insulted.
How could this guy still be out there? It had been years since 9/11, and we had nothing.
And then here's this compound.
Oh my God, we may have found him. The president said, nobody else in our government is to know about this.
My team's going to the most important mission in modern history.
This is the moment when everything you've planned to get bin Laden is on the line in the next 20 minutes.
And that's when all hell broke loose.
All right. Now, I watched that, and people should watch it. I find it very interesting, and I'd like to watch it with some experts to try to figure out the truth and anything that's kind of Hollywoodish. But these were real people. They were on the hunt, using their real names, being interviewed. And Logan, I don't know if you can find the clip, free flowing here. It was called American Manhunt about bin Laden. But if you could find the clip where they don't know who the courier is, they just know they got to find one guy. And they're like, how are we going to find one guy out of the whole world? And I want to say it off the top of my head, if I remember correctly, it took them 2 to 3 years, like I said. And when I was watching this, I thought to myself, Leo, this is the technology, I think, in part, that's going to grow and it be advanced and go through multiple levels of evolution. And you will be able to, if you can track one unknown guy and find one unknown guy, I thought to myself, well, clearly the technology is going to get better and better. And now I know, in part, how it is they will actually be able to track anyone who becomes a believer during the tribulation.
100%, Brandon. It's getting harder and harder to be anonymous in this world. It used to be a given, Another thing that they're going to do, I think, within the next 5 to 10 years is put in a digital programmable money system, and there'll be no more cash, so there'll be no such thing as an anonymous purchase of anything. As Pippa Malmgren said at the World Government Summit a few years back, we'll have a perfect record of every transaction that occurs in the global economy. Imagine that. You go to buy a Snickers bar at the local, food pantry or party store, whatever you call it, and boom, it just shows up right on a blockchain somewhere in real time that Brandon House just bought a Snickers bar. You will not be anonymously purchasing anything, and I don't think this is too far off. It could be perhaps in the aftermath of World War III, when people tend to be most vulnerable, that they would hit us with something like that. An all new global digital currency. Absolutely. Digital ID, digital biometric IDs, and digital money are the two things I think that are going to close the deal for the New World Order beast system. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted, but say that again. You think what?
I think digital programmable money on the one hand, combined with biometric digital ID of all human beings, those two things are what the globalists will use in these end times to bring in the beast system. You will no longer be anonymous in any way, shape, or form, and it'll be, I think, the point of no return towards the beast system when we see those two things implemented.
Hold right there, folks. We'll be right back with Leo Hohmann of leohohmann.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this break.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview Weekend client who lived in California, lost their house. Very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000, and guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled, and I said, I know you and Brandon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private.
Just simply go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form, worldviewgold.com. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com. Worldviewtalk.com. All right, we haven't been able to find the clip from the Netflix documentary, but we may have found something better. This is a piece from several years ago by CBS News. Now, as they were watching videos of bin Laden and stuff, they, I guess, found out that the courier had a nickname. Somebody had a nickname. And then so they had to go and find, who is this guy? And they didn't have him on camera, but I guess he was being spoken to off camera and a nickname being used. I think you'll see that if you watch the Netflix documentary on that. But watch what CBS put out, because again, it shows us how they tracked this guy down with just a nickname. Here we go.
We are learning new details this morning about the top secret operation that killed Osama bin Laden. CBS News national security correspondent David Martin is at the Pentagon this morning with the very latest on that angle. And David, we're learning that it was in fact a courier that led U.S. intelligence to this compound as far back as August. But how were they able to track him?
Well, they got his nickname from their interrogation of the al-Qaeda operatives, and some of these were operatives like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who were held in those secret CIA prisons where they were subjected to waterboarding. First they got the nickname, then they were able about 4 years ago to get the real name, and sometime after that they got his cell phone number. So they started tracking the cell phone, but he would turn off the cell phone anytime he got anywhere near the compound. So for some years, they were listening for this cell phone, and it never showed up in any place that would correlate with a compound. And then last summer, he made a mistake. He left the phone on, and all it took was one phone call to give away the location of the compound.
Wow. But again, all they started with, Leo, was a nickname.
Hey, a little nickname and a little waterboarding will take you a long way, right? But
and that was how many years ago? So imagine the advancement in technology. That's the point.
That's what I was.
That's the point.
Just going to say, yeah, that's what I was just going to say, because they said he would turn his cell phone off and they would lose track of him. Well, today I believe they can track your cell phone whether it's on or off.
So what do you think all this means long term? You know, when you got tech bros now becoming basically lieutenant colonels, are they going to start getting, by the way, security clearances to see all kinds of military stuff? And I guess they probably are, right? And who knows what else? Who knows what else on us?
Absolutely. I mean, many of these companies like Palantir and Facebook were started by the CIA to begin with, right?
Yes.
So this is really just their bosses, the U.S. government, now taking some of their most valuable human assets, these top executives, and making them colonels in the Army, right? And so it just all fits together, Brandon. And I do think that at some point we're going to regret it. We're going to regret the lack of oversight by our Congress. And we're going to regret the fact that what started out as weaponry to be used against foreign adversaries was at one point turned inward against the American people. It always happens. That's what happened after 9/11 with all the new laws and the new agencies that were passed to keep track of those Muslim terrorists. Well, now they're tracking us. It's going to be the same thing with these new technologies being applied for the military.
And look at this headline on Forbes magazine. How a deviant philosopher, they put quotes around deviant, built Palantir, a CIA-funded data mining juggernaut.
Right. So the CIA, which is a quasi-military agency of the U.S. government, started Palantir. So now it's going to call in its favors and say, hey, now, you guys are getting a little too big for your britches and you're a little bit more knowledgeable than we are now. So we need to tap into some of that research and that expertise that you have sitting over there at Palantir, the company we created. So come on over into the military and we'll make you a lieutenant colonel automatically, which, by the way, is unprecedented. I quote Patrick Wood in the article saying how that was only made possible with the NDAA bill of 2019, which was crafted by congressional staffers who were all what? Technocrats. So Congress is totally out of the loop, totally ignorant of all of this technology stuff that's going on as we turn America into a burgeoning police state.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, no, I've just found something in that article, by the way. Among those using Palantir to connect dots are the Marines, who have deployed its tools in Afghanistan for forensic analysis of roadside bombs and predicting insurgent attacks. The software helped locate Mexican drug cartel members who murdered an American customs agent and track down hackers who installed spyware on the computer of the Dalai Lama. In the book, The Finish, detailing the killing of Osama bin Laden, author Mark Bowden writes that Palantir's software, quote, actually deserves the popular designation killer app, end quote.
Wow. This may be the company that we've isolated right here, Brannon, Palantir, that acts as the enforcement agency for the BEAST system when it is fully implemented. And don't forget also that the Trump administration, at the same time they're doing this, this whole thing we've been talking about here, they've also initiated Operation Stargate, a very creepy program where the White House is partnering with OpenAI and Larry Ellison at Oracle and all of these same cast of characters, these tech execs, to build out the AI infrastructure in America with dozens of new data centers so that they can collect more data, process more data, and keep track of more human movement, human actions, even human thinking at some point will all be monitored quite tightly by AI. At least that's the plan. Now, here's an article by Bloomberg. Okay, this is an article by Bloomberg saying that, let me read, founded in 2004 by Peter Thiel and some fellow PayPal alumni, Palantir cuts its teeth working for the Pentagon and the CIA in Afghanistan and Iraq. The company's engineers and products don't do any spying themselves. They're more like a spy's brain, collecting and analyzing information that's fed in from the hands, eyes, nose, and ears. The software combs through disparate data sources, financial documents, airline reservations, cell phone records, social media postings, and searches for connections that human analysis might miss. It then presents the linkages in colorful, easy-to-interpret graphics that look like spiderwebs. U.S. spies and special forces loved it immediately. They deployed Palantir to synthesize and sort the blizzard of battlefield intelligence. It helped planners avoid roadside bombs, track insurgents for assassination, even hunt down Osama bin Laden. Wow. There you go. The military success led to federal contracts on the civilian side. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services uses Palantir to detect Medicare fraud. The FBI uses it in criminal probes. The Department of Homeland Security deployed it to screen air travelers and keep tabs on immigrants. Well, they're doing a great job keeping tabs on the immigrants part, right? Yeah, yeah. But they're keeping tabs on us. Yeah, I mean, that's all ruse, isn't it? That's the dirty little secret. Correct. Mm-hmm. But isn't that interesting that this is Bloomberg saying that it was even used track insurgents for assassination, even hunt down Osama bin Laden. Yeah. So that night when I was watching that documentary and they were talking about how they had to find one guy, literally a needle in a haystack of the whole world with just his nickname. And people should watch the segment. I wish we could find the segment and play it, but I was like, how on earth did they do this? I think it took them 2 or 3 years. Now you know. They use Palantir. Now, apparently they use Palantir. Because I'm sitting there watching this thinking, is that having to do with all the technology we've been talking about coming in with the tech bros? And I just thought, I wonder if any of those companies had anything to do with this. Well, I'm just reading Bloomberg tonight. I got to let you go, but I'm telling you, Leo, we are seeing how things that did not make sense to my grandparents would have never. When you will get a mark during the tribulation if you follow the beast, which I'm not going to do, but I'm not planning on being here. But let's say
We are. I'm not planning on taking it. I'm not going to take it because the Bible says if you do in Revelation 14, you're going straight to hell, and the fires of your torment are forever. So it's those who surrender and worship Satan, who's literally at that point, I think, indwelling the Antichrist. But my grandparents would have never understood, not to mention my great-grandparents, a system where no one can buy or sell unless you have the mark, and they're going to be able to track down those who are dissenting. How on earth? Of course, my grandparents died before they would have known about Facebook. They died before these cell phones came about that are the size they are today. They didn't have. I mean, just think, Logan. Just think, Leo. Your grandparents, my grandparents. That's not that far back for us. I'm 56. You're however old you are. Look at all this technology that has advanced since our grandparents died. Now, when they were reading the book of Revelation, they're like, I don't know how that's going to happen. And look at how fast it's happened. And look how it's like, I don't know, doubling every few months now. So I think I don't think there's any way to say this isn't the foundation. Now, the technology is going to get, quote, better, more advanced. But this is the foundation. This is the system being put into place, whether that's 5 years from now, 10 years from now. You'll look back and say, oh, it was all that was going on back then that built this system.
Absolutely, Brandon. And the flip side of the coin is from this whole thing, while we're talking about advancing and improving technology, the flip side of that is that they're also working at the same time on depopulating the world so that they'll have fewer people to keep up with and track.
That's a good point. By the way, what'd you think of my interview with Todd Carpenter last night on Disease X?
Yeah.
Calendar. What do you make of that?
I thought it was fascinating. He's written a book with my old friend, Dr. Jerry Corsi. I worked with him at WND, and I was not that familiar with Todd Calendar's work, but if he partnered in a book with Dr. Corsi, you can probably take it to the bank.
These are interesting days, Leo.
Yeah. And at the Bilderberg meeting, which just concluded over the weekend in Europe, what was on the agenda? Depopulation. And who is the head of the steering committee for the Bilderberg Group? Peter Thiel.
Really?
The founder of Palantir.
And what did he say about depopulation?
At the meeting, I don't know, because the meetings are secret. But they do put out their agenda, and the last thing on the agenda was the issue of depopulation.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, Peter Thiel is one of the top leaders of the Bilderberg Group, and he's the co-founder of Palantir. You can't make this up, Brandon.
Here is, listen to this BlackRock CEO. Listen.
I could argue in the developed countries, the big winners are countries that have shrinking populations. Okay, that's something that most people never talked about. We always used to think shrinking population is a cause for negative growth. But in my conversations with the leadership of these large developed countries that have xenophobic immigration policies, they don't allow anybody to come in, shrinking shrinking demographics, these countries will rapidly develop robotics and AI and technology. And if the promise, I didn't say it's going to happen, but if the promise of all that transforms productivity, which most of us think it will, we'll be able to elevate the standard of living of countries and the standard of living of individuals, even with shrinking populations. And so the paradigm of negative population growth is going to be changing. And the social problems that one will have in substituting humans for machines is going to be far easier in those countries that have declining populations.
Wow.
There
you go, Leo.
Incredible.
LeoHoman.com. You can go read his article right now. LeoHoman.substack.com. LeoHoman.substack.com. Folks?
Yes.
Fascinating. Great job, Leo.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you. Wow. All right, folks, we'll be right back. Don't go away.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisol collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
Looking for a trusted source to understand today's world through a Christian worldview? Worldview Tube is built on the 35 years of worldview books, columns, research, and high-profile interviews of Brannon Howse. Want to know more about Worldview Tube, its founder, history, team, and mission? Visit worldviewtube.com/about. That's worldviewtube.com/about. Worldview Tube is your source for understanding the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.